Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the SKOL Joel Twins post-game show. I am your host, SKOL Joel. I know the graphics are still bland, the background is still bland. You just wait, ladies and gentlemen. It is coming. I'm actually working on an intro, background music, and an outro as we speak, and I will be having it for tomorrow night's show. I will have the intro and everything ready. But yeah, and I will hopefully soon be moving up to the Skull Cave. But again, it's currently about midnight. Everyone's asleep. Don't wanna disturb them. So here we are to get into a great game for the Minnesota Twins. Tonight, the Minnesota Twins took home a victory over the Seattle Mariners by a final score of 10-3. In fact, finals in this game, the Minnesota Twins had 10 runs on 14 hits. The Seattle Mariners had 3 runs on 9 hits. They also did commit 1 error. Again, just like last night, I took notes. I got my score sheet. I scored the game. We're going to be running through today some different notes I had. And I will say this. Last night, in the inaugural first ever post-game show I've ever run before, I said I was going to do the number of notes I take is based on the number of runs the team scores. So I wrote up 3 since they had 3. And in the 9th inning, the Kepler home run made it 6 runs. So that kind of screwed it up. So I stuck with 3. Guess what? I've got 10 notes for you. Yes, I came through. In the 9th inning, I was writing up some extra ones. I had extra ones in mind those days. But yes, I do have 10 different notes for you. I'm going to run through. And I don't really have any bonus notes after that. That pretty much sums it up pretty well. So a little bit of background, though, as we take a look at the Twins now. The Twins are now 48. No, excuse me. They were 48-47. They're now 49-47 following the game. The Seattle Mariners dropped to 47-47. The Twins are currently a game and a half ahead of the Cleveland Guardians, who took home another win tonight in Pittsburgh against the Pittsburgh Pirates. So Bailey Ober was the starting pitcher for the Minnesota Twins heading into the game. He was 5-4 with an ERA of 2.61, a WHIP of 0.97 with 82 innings pitched on the year. I'll talk a lot more about him in a little bit here. Brian Wu was the starting pitcher for the Seattle Mariners. He was 1-1 heading into the night with an ERA of 3.63 and a WHIP of 1.07 with just 34 innings pitched on the year, so a lot smaller of a sample size. But with that said, I am going to get into the notes. I will say, though, to be clear, this is not ordering notes 1 to 10 on most important to least important. It's just a 10 in order of what I was writing down. So from the beginning of the game toward the end of the game, different thoughts I had. So it's an order by that. So let's kick it off with my first note that I had. It is that I doubted early. So early in the game, the Minnesota Twins in the first inning, I'll read off exactly what happened. Carlos Correa came up. First pitch of the game, he hit a single, proceeded to score eventually. Eddie Julien struck out. Alex Kirilloff walked. Max Kepler then hit a sac fly, which is what scored Carlos Correa. Matt Wallner came in, and he was hit by a pitch. Willie Castro hit an RBI single, and then Kyle Farmer proceeded to strike out looking. The strikeout from Eddie Julien was also looking as well, I should say. But following that, we headed to the bottom of the first. J.P. Crawford kicked it off with a single for the Mariners. Eugenio Suarez then hit a home run. So just like that, they tied the game with no outs at 2-2. Jared Kelenic, sorry, said it wrong, came in and then he hit a single. Cal Raleigh struck out swinging. Teoscar Hernandez hit a single then. Ty France hit a double. Teoscar Hernandez was thrown out at home. I'll have more thoughts on that later. And then Mike Ford hit a single. Ty France was thrown out at home. And then that was the end of the inning. So in that bottom half of the first inning, the Seattle Mariners had 3 runs on 6 hits. It was a brutal first inning. I strapped in my chair. I said, here we go again. This could be another brutal outing for this Minnesota Twins starting pitching coming out of the All-Star break. We know that starting pitching has been their strength so far this season, but they have had a tough time in their first go of the rotation coming out of the All-Star break, probably just because of the number of days off. The guys are out of it, and it looked like that was going to be the case for Bailey Ober, but he really picked it up and I will talk about that again in a little bit. So I really had a lot of doubts early considering how not great the Twins' first inning, it started well, then suddenly all momentum was gone. That was the one thing I was also frustrated with last night is it seemed like the Twins couldn't maintain momentum. They would have a big inning, they would score runs, and then just like that, you're hoping for a 1, 2, 3 inning from the Twins pitcher, but that never happened. But tonight, it seemed like they were able to get the momentum going, and they were able to keep the momentum beyond the first inning. But I did doubt them early in the first. But with that, my second note that I had in this game, they did a good job watching pitches for the most part. As the game went on, it did get a bit worse in this category, but I think they did a really good job at watching pitches and balls and strikes. I think they did a good job. Sometimes they have a tough time. We know that this team is about to absolutely destroy the record for the most strikeouts in a season by a team. But it seemed tonight they got walked 5 different times, which in the grand scheme, I guess, is good. Thought it was going to be more since it was that number through like 6 or 7 innings already. That they didn't have any for the last couple, but still, I think they did a really good job watching pitches and not swinging outside of the zone. At the end, it did get a bit more shaky in that category, but that is one thing that I do worry about the team is just swinging too much and trying to swing for the fence. But tonight, I think they did a good job watching the pitches. The third note I had is that the Twins defense, shined early. In the first inning, they did a great job. Like I mentioned in the bottom half of the first, I'll kind of mention some of the situations here. This is how it was. Actually, I can't remember the exact situations. It's hard to read it just off my score sheet. But it started with Teoscar Hernandez being thrown out at home. Ty France was also thrown out at home. The Teoscar one was really interesting since he ran through the stop sign that was being held up by I believe, if I remember correctly, he ran through the stop sign being held up by the third base coach for the Seattle Mariners. And it was a close play. It was where the ball was hit to the outfield. Gallo was in left field. He rifled it to Correa. Correa threw an absolute bomb at Vasquez. I love watching Correa throw the ball. He's just so good at it. And then Vasquez applied the tag, close play at the plate, but sure enough, Teoscar was out. The second instance was right after that. France was trying to score. If I remember correctly, then the Seattle third base coach waved him around, told him to go, and then he was thrown out easily by Max Kepler in right field. Again, I don't like Kepler batting. He actually had a pretty good night batting tonight. Overall, I still don't like Max Kepler hitting, but he does have he's good at defense. I will give him credit for that, and it definitely showed on that play. Nice throw in to the plate. Vasquez applies the tag, and Ty France is out at home for the second time in the inning that happened. Overall, really no big knocks I have on the Twins defense. I think they just simply did a good job tonight. As far as pitching is concerned, I will get into that in a little bit here. Fourth note that I had from this game is that Eddie Julien must replace Byron Buxton. I talked a lot about this during last night's post-game show. If you were watching it, then you were watching it. But if you weren't, I'll kind of explain it here. Eddie Julien last night had a 3-hit game. He hit 3 different singles, I believe, if I remember correctly. I'll read off his stat line for tonight's game. Eddie Julien tonight, in the first inning, he struck out looking. In the third inning, he hit a single before he came around to score. Fourth inning, he hit the solo home run. In the sixth inning, he hit a single and then came around to score. In the seventh inning, he grounded out to second base, and then he didn't bat again at all as he was subbed out for Michael A. Taylor, who batted in his spot and struck out brutally swinging in the ninth inning. But I just think Eddie Julien needs to replace Byron Buxton. In fact, this season, Eddie Julien is now batting, I wrote it down here, he's now batting .310 on the season. He had 4 hits tonight. No, he had hits tonight, excuse me. But still, 3 hits tonight. He had 3 hits last night. I just simply think Eddie Julien needs to play every day, and he needs to bat every day. As far as fielding is concerned, that's where I draw the line. We saw last night twice he almost completely threw the ball away. Eddie Julien's great hitter, not a great fielder. Byron Buxton this season is batting .192. as I talked about in last night's post-game show, he's now 0 for his past 22 with 13 strikeouts. It's absolutely brutal. Eddie Julien has 15 hits in his past 9 games. I think he needs to play every day. He needs to get on the base paths, and he does a great job of getting on the base paths. Byron Buxton can't get on the base paths. He's in potentially the worst slump of his whole career. They need to do something at the designated hitter position, and I think Eddie Julien is the answer. The fifth note I took is Alex Kirilloff needs to play every day. So I'm sure you guys saw on the thumbnail, Alex Kirilloff was my thumbnail. He had another great game tonight. Kirilloff was batting third. In the first inning, he walked. Then he proceeded to come around and score. In the third inning, he hit the 2-run home run. In the fourth inning, he hit a double and then came around to score. In the sixth inning, he struck out looking. And then in the eighth inning, he slapped a single, yeah, to lead off the eighth inning. That's about all I got to say there for that. But I just simply think Alex Kirilloff is a natural hitter. He has a natural swing. I know you can say what you want. I think Carlos Correa has a beautiful looking swing, but to me, Alex Kirilloff has a beautiful looking swing as well. Hits the ball hard. And another thing I really noted is that his home run tonight was opposite field, just like his home run he had in Oakland. I believe that was on Sunday, if I remember correctly. That home run was opposite field as well. So that's why I think he needs to play over Kepler. Kepler's a decent hitter. He's a great fielder, but what I really love about Kirilloff is he can pull it, he can spread the ball everywhere, and he can hit the ball hard. He is a natural hitter that can hit the ball everywhere. I just love watching Alex Kirilloff hit the ball. In fact, this season, Alex Kirilloff is now batting 287, which is by far one of the best on the team, looking at how bad the Twins hitters have been. 287 on the year now for Alex Kirilloff. With that said, my sixth note I kind of touched on earlier, but it is that Bailey Ober recovered really well. After the first inning not did not go well for him, he threw 25 pitches. He gave 2 runs. No, he gave up 3 runs on 6 hits in the first inning. I was a bit nervous, like I talked about at the beginning of the post game. But following that, he threw 16 pitches in the second, 11 in the third, 13 in the fourth, 13 in the fifth, and then I may have miscounted, but I believe he threw 11th in the sixth before he was taken out, and they brought in Jordan Balazovic to pitch. But I just think Bailey Ober had such a good night tonight. I love watching Bailey Ober, knowing that he is actually a Twins pitcher. This team drafted him. This team is developing him. This front office, one of the big picks I have with them is they just can't develop pitching, whether it must be the staff's fault. They just can't do a good job developing pitching, especially when we look at Yenier Cano as the main guy that comes to mind for me. He just made the All-Star game, and now he's one of the best pitchers for the Baltimore Orioles right now after he had such a struggling year last year with the Twins. But Yenier Cano, yeah, now he's just pitching so well. So it's got to be a fault on the front office if you ask me. But that's just my thoughts on that right there. But that's why I love watching Bailey Ober. He is a Twins pitcher. They didn't acquire him by trade like they did with Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Sonny Gray. He is a natural pitcher from the Minnesota Twins farm system. That's what I love so much about him. And he just pitched so well tonight. Following that, he gave up no runs for the rest of the game. Again, he pitched 6 innings. He gave up just 1 hit. 1 hit after the first inning, and that was actually in the second inning. He gave up a double to Jose Caballero. And following that, no hits for the entire rest of the game for him. In fact, the only other base runner he gave up was a hit by pitch, and that's it. After the first inning, he only gave up 2 base runners. One was on the double by Caballero, like I just said, and the other was hit by pitch on Eugenio Suarez in the 5th inning. So outstanding night from Bailey Ober, standing ovation. He was the player of the game tonight, in my personal opinion. The 7th one got worse as the game went on, but they did a really good job at this early, I thought. They didn't swing and miss a whole lot. I think to me, it was just looking at the Michael A. Taylor at bat kind of left a bad taste in my mouth at the end of the game. But if you take out Joey Gallo, the Twins really didn't have a whole lot of swings and misses. I think they just did a really good job tonight at making contact, and I think that's why they were able to score 10 runs. They were able to make contact, have action in the base paths. And I think they just did a really good job of that. And putting the ball in play is what I love. That's why I can't stand Joey Gallo. I would way rather have a player that puts the ball in play because you never know. There can be an error. It can get through for a base hit. Anything can happen. So that's why I just loved watching that because that goes by my philosophy. Get base runners on, make contact because that's what's going to score runs. And I think this front office does not a good job, and that's what David Popkins, I think. They preach too much on home runs, and that's what creates swings and misses, and that's why this team is about to destroy the strikeout record. So again, not too many swings and misses. It started very well in that way, but it kind of did deplete as the game went on, but I did like it. At the beginning of the game, I think they were doing a really good job with it. My eighth note that I have is we had a great night from Willie Castro batting. Not a whole lot of attention was brought to it, at least in the Twins radio broadcast. They did a good job of it. I always listen to the Twins radio rather than the TV. I just love Corey Provis. I think he does a lot better job than Dick Bramer in the booth. Tonight, Willie Castro in the first inning hit a single, had an RBI single, actually. In fact, in the third inning, he also hit another single and had a stolen base. Struck out swinging in the fourth, came up again in the sixth inning, hit a single, an RBI single, actually, to be specific. And then in the eighth inning, he lined out to the first baseman, who would have been Ty France. Lined out to first, would have been his fourth hit of the game, but great play from France at first. Got to give respect to that. But I just think that Willie Castro, good hitter, but he's really a great runner on the base paths. And that was what I noticed from him is he does a good job. He's speedy and does a good job making action on the base paths, which again, like I just talked about with the last point I had, is the main philosophy is make action on the base paths, hit the ball, put the ball in play, and that's what's going to score you runs. And I think that's what did such a good job for the Twins tonight. The ninth point I have, the second to last one, is we had a quality innings tonight from the Twins bullpen. In fact, we only had 4 Twins pitchers tonight. Of course, Bailey Ober went 6 innings. Like I said, gave up 3 runs on just 7 hits. Like I said, after the first inning, he only gave up 2 base runners, the one double, and then he gave up the hit by pitch as well. Following that, Jordan Alazovic came in. He gave up nothing, really. He did give up the 2 base runners, but outside of that, gave up no runs, was able to get out of it with nothing against him. Emilio Pagan came in. I think he did a great job. He came in the 8th inning and pitched, had a 1-2-3 inning. Cole Stans then came in to close out the 9th. He did give up a single to A.J. Pollock with 2 outs, but not a big deal. Still able to put up a 0 on the scoreboard. So I think the Twins did a great job tonight. I would still love to see them add an arm, considering that they have had some struggles, but they've also had a lot of greatness. And really, I'm just looking at Pagan and the fact that he actually had a great game. If you've been around my channel or my Twitter account, you'll see I have a lot of times trashed on Pagan, but Pagan did a great job tonight. Since the All-Star game, I think Pagan has just simply done a lot better job pitching. And I think he's less, how do I say it? I think a lot of the issue with Pagan is, I can't say this for sure since I'm not Pagan, but I think sometimes base runners get in his mind, and he has a tough time getting out when he thinks about the fact that he could be giving up runs. And again, like I said, I'm not Emilio Pagan, so that I might be completely wrong, but that's just the way I think might go with him. But tonight he did a great job, and that Oakland series, he also did a great job putting up zeros on the scoreboard. So I just think he's done a lot better now, and I think maybe he has more confidence in himself, and that could be why he's doing so much better. Well, my 10th and final point that I have for this game, since the team scored 10 runs, this is going to be my 10th point. Carlos Correa has been hitting a lot better at leadoff. He had been hitting second, third, fourth, mostly third for a lot of the year, but now they moved him into the leadoff spot recently, and I think he's been hitting a lot better there. Started the game off on the first pitch of the game with a single, proceeded to score, bounced to the pitcher in the second inning. In the 4th inning, he grounded out to short. In the 5th inning, he grounded to second base. I believe it was the ground out to short. That was the debatable one. It was called an out. I really disagree with it. They had one great shot on the TV broadcast from, like, the first base. It was on the baseline, and it, to me, seemed pretty clear cut that Ty France missed the tag, but the call on the field stood. Whatever, I can't change the call, so I'm not gonna complain too much about it. But then in the 5th inning, he grounded out to second. In the 7th inning, he bounced out to short. Actually, maybe it was that one. I think it was the one where he bounced out to short. My bad there. Not the 4th inning, it was the 7th inning one was the one that was the debatable one. And then in the 9th inning, he hit a home run on the first pitch to make the score. That would have been 10-3 at the time. So he scored the 10th run, made me make a 10th point, and I just think he's been hitting a lot better in the leadoff. Overall this year, he has been pretty underwhelming, but that was his 12th home run of the year. He's now batting .234, which still is not great by any means. He's been great in the field this year. He almost had that outstanding play at short with the jumping line drive catch. It would have been outstanding if he would have made that play, but can't bring them all in. And don't expect them to make that play 100% of the time since it is a tough play to make. But the team is now 4-1 post All-Star break. A couple other notes I have here. Brian Wu, this is his pitch count by inning. I was kind of counting. I may have had a couple wrong, but this is what I counted. 30 pitches in the first, 11 in the second, 30 again in the third, and then he had 16 in the 4th inning, but then they took him out with 2 outs, so he was only able to, or no, with 1 out. He only got 3.1 innings pitched. Bailey Ober, again, 25 in the first, 16, 11, 13, 13, and then 11 in the 6th. Let me just look through my final notes, see if I'm really missing anything else. Bailey Ober, they mentioned on the radio broadcast, he is second in the American League, I believe, in his WHIP. Coming into the game, he was 5-4. Now he's 6-4 with an ERA of 2.61 and a WHIP of just .97 in 82 innings pitched. Second in the American League in WHIP, fourth in the American League in average against. So he's been pitching very, very well for the Minnesota Twins this season. He had another very, very good tonight. Again, Twins are now 49-47. Seattle's now 47-47. Twins are a game and a half of the Cleveland Guardians. The home run that Alex Kirilloff hit, they said, was the 5th home run of the season off of Brian Wu. So it is kind of few and far between that does happen. Although Wu only does have 34 innings pitched this season. In comparison, Bailey Ober has 82 going into the game. So a lot smaller of a sample size here for Brian Wu. But again, the Twins have 10 runs tonight on 14 hits. The Seattle Mariners have 3 runs tonight on 9 hits. They also did commit 1 error. The Twins had no errors against. With that said, I think that pretty much does it for the post-game show tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching. Those were my 10 thoughts on the Minnesota Twins win tonight against the Seattle Mariners. Final score 10-3. Twins are now a game and a half ahead of the Cleveland Guardians. Again, final reminders I have in case you weren't watching at the beginning, anybody, is that I will be having some graphics. By graphics, I mean I will have an intro and outro and background music starting tomorrow night. Yep. I was working on an intro tonight or today during the day. I was working on an intro. Got a fair amount of it done. I'm pretty close, but it took a lot of work to do. But I have that. Then I'm going to be making an outro music. I just combine things. Making an outro as well as finding music that I can play as a subtle background, since right now it's just me talking and there's nothing else other than me talking. So I think that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully I can move to the SKOL Cave soon. During day games I will, but again, it's currently 12:19 a.m. Central Time, so don't want to wake people up upstairs where they're all sleeping. But with that, that is going to do it. Again, the Twins play tomorrow night at 8:40 p.m. Central Time for the 3rd game of 4 against the Seattle Mariners. I will be streaming following tomorrow night's game yet again. They play again on Thursday. I believe it's at 2:40 p.m. Central start time. I will not be, since I do have to work at 5 o'clock. So I will not be watching the end of the game, which means I won't be able to make a post-game show. But I'm happy that you guys can hopefully support. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you weren't at my stream the other day, I did have a YouTube stream out. This is gonna be my final thought. The Skull podcast will be making its return here in a couple weeks. We've got 2 episodes we currently have planned in the works, but yeah, I'm gonna be gone all of next week on a mission trip in Colorado, so we can't film it next week, and so it'll be the week after, which will be the end of July into the beginning of August. We have 2 episodes that we've got planned right now that we'll be filming. But with that said, thank you guys so much for watching. That is gonna do it for this stream tonight for the post-game show. Be sure to click the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Happy to have you guys along for the Skull Joel Twins post-game show. As always, I'm your host, Skull Joel. Have a good night, everybody, and go Twins. I still got to find a good tagline to close it out. But go Twins. Have a good night, everybody. See you all later.